Hello, and welcome to the A.D.H.Deep-Dive, the show that's not about ADHD, but is filled with proof it exists. My name is David J. Mund, and before we get started on this episode, for familiar listeners of the podcast, you'll know that usually when I'm recording my audio like this, it sounds pretty okay, and then when I have a podcast guest on Zoom, I take their audio that way, and then I clean it all up, and it sounds pretty good. But when I have two people in the room at the same time, I don't always have the proper equipment to record audio in the best way. So what I'm probably doing is making it sound significantly worse than it actually is, which I'm kind of hoping to do so that when you get into the episode, you go, oh, the audio's not that bad. All that to say, I'm using this microphone for two people, which is not how it's meant to be. So my embarrassment from that particular instance pushed me over the edge to finally get some lapel mics, some lavalier mics, so each person can have a microphone in the room. We can just sit back and talk. Nobody needs to hold any microphones or anything. It'll just be clipped right to the chest. So future guest episodes where another person is in the room with me at the same time, audio will sound significantly better. That said, this is a great episode. I love John Kelley very much. He reminds me constantly when we get in a room that there is the capacity to make this podcast a comedy podcast. I think that he was a great guest. We talked about a lot of funny stuff, the haunting of our former theater, some of our past jobs, our thoughts on the fact that AI is a punk bitch. And I think we kick things off with a bit of a discussion about Hey Arnold. So strap in, forgive me, enjoy the episode. Thank you so much. I love you. And let's get to the episode. Crack that shit open, dog.
All right.
There's no... Whatever. You know how this is done. There's no start.
Oh, yeah. That's not one of those.
So let's... Oh, wait. Can you cork it again? And then do it right in the mic. Yep.
Hold on. You ready?
Ready? Shh. Yeah.
There we
nice.
go.
That's good shit. What do we got?
We have Dragon's Milk beer barrel bourbon from New Holland.
Straight from the teat.
Straight from the teat.
Of the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
For clarity's sake, I texted John and said, hey, can you grab me a Liquid Death? And he showed up with a case of Liquid Death and bourbon. So it's like, okay, all right, that's fine.
Let's give that a try throughout. I've never had it before.
I've got this little fancy dog mug, and John's got a mug that I'm not sure what's on it.
A flower and flower.
Is it floral?
And a cloud? I don't know.
Woof woof.
Cheers.
And, you know, whatever. First of all, delicious. Second of all, where did you want to go after this? We were talking about getting food and possibly drinks.
That's a good question. I have no idea.
Ooh, hang on. There's like a...
I'm waiting for you to tell me there's something floating in there. And that's
No, not floating. Listen, I don't know shit about whiskey, or... I know that I enjoy whiskey and I know that I enjoy bourbon, but I don't know anything about like how to describe what it is I'm tasting.
Same.
But there's like a texture to this that I enjoy, that if like, I don't know if you were able to get your tongue in there and like... But you say floaties as if it's...
No,
like,
it doesn't. The biggest thing is that it doesn't have like a bitter burn. I'll
right,
put it that way.
Right. Dragon Milk.
The best way I'll describe it is New Holland did a limited release that I kind of bought as a joke of their Dragon's Milk, and it was called Triple Mash, and it was their normal like dark stout beer Dragon's Milk, but it was aged in these barrels.
Oh, this is New Holland.
Yep, and I think it was like 22% alcohol per like bottle of their beer, which normal beer is like 6 to 8%.
Yeah. Well,
and
that's easy. I mean,
I
that's good.
Well,
I mean,
I busted one out at a party, and people were like, "What the?"
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure like most people are drinking light beers, and light beers have like
keep in mind
3 to 5, right?
Like this is 80 proof, so it's 40%.
Yeah,
so
course.
half of that in a beer,
but that's
it's
also
still like 3 times more than a normal beer.
That's also the difference between liquor and beer, though. Like
it was basically liquor, but that's I don't know shit about bourbon, whiskey, any of it either.
Oops.
But
Sorry about that, folks. I'm turning it on to Do Not Disturb so that I can honor my esteemed guest, by the way,
Sweet.
Jonathan Kelley.
What's the thing? I don't know anything about bourbon either, but I can taste the same hints of dragon's milk.
Oh, okay. So it is like a familiar taste to you.
It's not. It's just about the same.
It's like a textural thing. I get it. I'm not gonna like beat a dead horse of like, yes, notes of this and that, because I don't know what it is that I'm tasting. But it's good.
Well, I guess to kind of kick it off, I'm back.
You're back. Let's talk about it. What is back from though?
Back from.
Because I remember you.
I was on an episode.
Oh, back on the podcast.
Back on the pod.
Okay.
Well, I'm also back here because you didn't know I've been to your house before.
Yes. Okay. So first of all, I think you were episode 4, 3.
Yeah, it was like something very
3 or 4. Yeah. And there was an intention to be like, okay, ready? We're gonna have you back on like ASAP. And then
that was
didn't happen.
2021.
If it was, I didn't. Yeah, Judah's still trying to decide if she's like uncomfortable with you more.
We'll let it be.
I just don't want her to unplug anything in the back. But you were episode 3 or 4, and we talked a lot about Cadillacs.
History, Cadillacs history.
Which there is a fun little note that I would like to get to at a certain point. We don't necessarily need to lead with that, but maybe it'll be a fun little starting point.
I actually do have a starting point.
Oh, okay, great.
There's one clarification from our podcast that I want to clarify. About my NMC professor.
Is it something that you... Oh, do you want to... Is it something...
It is a correction I want to make.
So you should do it up front.
I should do it up front.
Okay.
So at one point in time, I said that my astronomy professor at NMC, I couldn't figure out his name, and I thought it was David Dobrik, the YouTuber.
Wait, you didn't say that your astronomy professor was David Dobrik?
No, I was like, I forgot his name. I think it's I don't know why, but like David Dobrik's coming to mind.
Oh yeah, okay, I do remember you saying that.
The reason for that is my professor at Grand Valley was David Lang.
So was it David?
And my professor, my actual astronomy professor at NMC was Jerry Dobek. And I put 2 and 2 of David Dobek. I'm like, that doesn't sound right, David Dobrik. I'm like, no, wait, that's way not right.
It was astronomy?
Yes.
Professor got canceled. Just to be clear. Whatever. I don't know anything about David Dobrik, actually. I know that he got canceled for something.
I watched a whole 20-minute thing on him about
why. Oh God. That reminds me.
Wait, did you look at the back of that already?
No, not yet.
Okay.
But I'm writing something on my notes because it was another thing that I was supposed to remind you. I'm going to keep that covered. You said you had a starting point, but I'm going to jump. I'm going to transition.
I'm done with my starting point. I just need to clarify that my astronomy professor was not David Dobrik.
Up here is the full complete series collection on DVD of Cat Dog.
Okay.
Do you know where I'm going with this?
No.
The other night you texted me and said, I have to remind you to talk about Hey Arnold.
Yes.
And
okay. I wasn't sure. I mean, you put a Cat Dog. I'm like, does he think I watched Cat Dog?
No.
To be clear, to clarify, I did in fact watch Cat Dog.
You did or didn't?
I did.
Okay.
I was a huge Nickelodeon kid.
Yeah.
I feel like in chronological order, I went Cartoon Network specifically for the OG Scooby-Doo.
That's not where I thought you were
going. And then I went to Disney because at the time that's what my sister was watching, but it was That's So Raven.
Yes.
I'm
happy.
Kim Possible, stuff like that.
Yes.
I then transitioned a little bit more heavily to Nickelodeon. This Is Your SpongeBob, Cat Dog, Hey Arnold, stuff like that. And then I feel like I kind of ended my... I mean, SpongeBob was always up there.
Yes.
But I kind of ended my cartoon watching with Cartoon Network. And this is Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy,
nice.
Ed, and Eddie, that kind of stuff. Chowder. I don't know why Chowder. Camp Lazlo, underrated hit.
Interesting. So that's right at the tail end of... Because the way that you presented it is you went in phases, which is exactly what I did. Where it's I only had time in my mind to be committed to a specific network. Mm-hmm. So for the ages of, 8 to 10, I was watching exclusively Nickelodeon. Then 10 to 12, it was Disney Channel. And then it was the Cartoon Network. Then it went back over to Nickelodeon for some of the the Drake and Josh's, the reality, the live action stuff. Because I was still on those networks, but I was I'm too old for this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But my last bastion or my last bout of cartoons was Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy.
Yep.
Dexter's Laboratory, that kind of stuff. But that like Toonami collection.
Yep.
You remember the guy?
Yeah,
Like
Spaceman. Yep.
Yes.
The 3D animated Spaceman
Yes.
on what is otherwise a 2D cartoon channel.
Who had the like Halo.
The Master Chief voice.
The Master Chief voice. Yep. Yeah. That's so fascinating that you remember it that way. But what was this Hey Arnold thing that you told me?
So, I texted you a GIF of Hey Arnold.
Yes, and then I responded right back with one, which I felt pretty happy about.
To which I was like, remind me about Hey Arnold. And the reason I say remind me is because I found a YouTube channel that while I'm working, I'll just have YouTube just in background noise more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a YouTube channel that did recaps of cartoons. And I watched the entire recap of Codenames Kid Next Door just because...
Codenames Kid Next Door was dope.
Sleeper.
Also, update this, sorry to interrupt, that reminds me that I think my actual last, like, Cartoon Network cartoon that I cared about was something that my brother watched. It was, like, his generation, but it was Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends.
Yep.
That was, like, one of the last ones I, like, remember caring about.
In hindsight, I feel like I watched almost all cartoons.
Probably.
You're kind of like, I jump from here to here, and I'm like, I feel like I kind of...
Because they rerun. They ran the reruns on the channels, but, like, my attention was only, like, for specific amounts of time.
I know it comes with the territory of being a kid, but I can't comprehend how I used to watch cartoons back in the day and actually comprehend like, oh, this is this and this is and this is the story, because they always just reruns out of order.
Right.
Whereas nowadays, I feel like I have to stream everything in order.
But even like with today, like if I hop in on an episode, I don't watch anything to do with Bob's Burgers or Archer or anything like that, but you can come in on a random episode and just kind of like figure out what's going on. But if you pay attention, there's an arc. With the like SpongeBob type, there wasn't really arcs.
No, that was more just like you could just pick up any episode.
Yeah, and there was character development. Like you learned things about the characters that you didn't know before, but like it wasn't like it's like
oh, you missed that.
Like, right? Yeah. Pick up, leave off. But Hey Arnold, 7 hours.
So yeah, so I watched the Codenames Kids Next Door recap, and it just recapped all the episodes, maybe like 2 or 3 minute recap of each episode from start to finish. So I watched, then Hey Arnold.
I'm clearly a number 4. Just saying.
I don't know, you have like the adult vibe.
I am an adult.
So I got suggested a video on the same guy's channel, and it was the entire recap of Hey Arnold, including all of the movies.
Ooh, nice.
And that video was 7 hours long.
Wait, I'm trying to remember even plots of movies, Hey Arnold wise.
There was the final movie, which was the final thing they ever did, was the Jungle one. Where spoiler, I can say spoiler now. It's 2024.
This was probably made at the latest 2003.
Arnold finds his parents
in the jungle.
Yeah, the very final one.
Wait, so what was the arc of the plot? Because he's with his grandma the whole time. Like what?
He's with his grandparents,
and they don't explain why he's.
Yeah, so he's living in New York, and throughout the entire series, you kind of pick up hints like, oh, you know, his parents left. It's like, okay, that's sad. It's okay, like, well, no, his parents left to do something. Okay, wait, so they didn't just leave him, and then it progresses. Come to find out, his parents met originally because they were like world travelers, and they kind of met in this Congo type thing.
Does this tie into the Thornberrys?
No, it does not. Which I did watch. But
so you're saying you've never been more fresh on your knowledge of
Hey Arnold?
Hey Arnold.
I guess not.
Right.
So the reason his parents left is because a tribe of indigenous people, like who his parents used to interact with, like needed help, and they needed to leave to go save them, essentially.
Okay.
And you find out that some sort of like spell, or what do you want to call it, like has had them like asleep along with all the other villagers.
This is not what I expected.
The whole time. And I don't know, I'm trying to remember exactly how Arnold finds out about it, but I think it's because his school won a trip, like a school trip to that forest.
As a consumer of content, even though, yes, let's address up front, that's made for children. It's children's television. Yeah. At the time, we were just children. But how do you feel about that as a storyline? Like, if the whole time you're setting it up, like, there's probably, like, ways to like grow the show with the audience.
Mhm.
That like, okay, we come to understand that like parents or grown-ups make mistakes too, or something like that. You're like, no, they've been magically put to sleep by a tribe in the jungle.
So, well, one thing I forgot to mention is that the 7-hour video, the dude also got the creator of
Do you know
Hey
the-
Arnold.
Do you know the creator of the video, by the way?
I can find it out. I can find it out. We can link it in the comments.
Okay.
So, the dude got the creator of Hey Arnold, including like he created not only the plot of Hey Arnold, but also into the backstory. Like Hey Arnold used to be a claymation that had a couple episodes, then got canceled, and then picked up as a cartoon.
I did not know that.
Yeah, but anyway, so he went into like, oh yeah, so like these are the reasons we did this plot, and these are the reasons that we did these things. So kind of going back to your point, is Hey Arnold never strayed away from like adults make mistakes and adults don't know everything. So it's not like this, adults
Right.
know all thing. It's like you should listen to the adults, listen to your parents, but they make mistakes. And he's like, I purposely did that because every show is like what adults say is what goes, and they don't make mistakes like they do.
Or it was the opposite side of that, where it was like adults were
No,
morons.
they're stupid. Yeah.
Which, as like a kid, you feel, but like as a plot device, it's like it probably did aid in us resenting our parents because media was like, "Aren't these guys morons?"
Bring mom and dad over here.
But even like, especially in the Dexter category, because he was like a boy genius, and I believe that was secretly hidden from his parents.
Yeah.
Like, wasn't he just like a dumb baby to them?
Well, I mean, it was kind of the same plot of Phineas and Ferb because
you
Phineas
lost me.
Phineas and
Go ahead.
Ferb are just like genius kids during the summer break that like build all these things, and Candace, their sister's trying to rat them out to their parents, and their parents couldn't be bothered. And when the mom finally bothers to go check on what they're doing, somehow by miracle, like a
Cleaned
gust
up.
of wind blows everything away, and
Yep.
it's just like kids sitting in the
Like,
backyard.
what are you doing?
So it's kind of the same thing. Like the parents are oblivious to their kids because they're stupid.
I'm glad I asked about Hey Arnold because it felt urgent, like I needed to ask.
Well, I only messaged it because I sent you that GIF, and I'm like, wait, I watch so much Hey Arnold.
I don't think I know what this stands for.
Family Video.
Oh, okay, that's a good
Which those kind of go hand in hand.
Okay, then we'll start here. Right? Is that you cool
Sure.
starting here?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that we talked about in the last podcast was just our time, A, together, but B, just existing in Cadillac.
Yep.
And the place we actually met, I believe,
Yeah,
right?
it was.
We met there. Was our job we both became managers at the Cadillac 5. Now, the Cadillac 4 used to be good, rich, quality theater, but
It still is.
it's still good,
I think it's
rich.
still Goodrich.
That's wild to me.
Goodrich rose like a phoenix from the ashes, came back from COVID because they were not doing well.
We'll talk about that. We'll get to this point. But let's talk about how old you were when you had that job. Do you remember how old? And where was that in your like having jobs career?
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember if it was my senior year of high school or junior. I think it might have been my junior year of high school.
So funny. That started as high school.
And as far as like where that was in my career of jobs is I only ever had one formal job prior to that point, and that was Dairy Queen.
Oh, you worked at Dairy Queen?
My second least favorite job I've ever had.
The drive-through right around the corner?
Yep.
Nice.
So my second least favorite job I ever had. But other than that, I just did kind of odds and ends. Like I helped my buddy and his dad do flooring. I did a lot of lawn mowing, like to the point where it wasn't just like, oh, my son does lawn mowing. Like I was legit doing.
It was like nothing on the books, like tax, income, that kind of stuff. Okay.
But then, so then I kind of took a break from working for a while because then school started back up.
Right.
And I worked at the Cadillac 5. I remember I was in the middle of a tennis tournament up in Traverse City when they called me to follow up on my interview, and they're like, hey, we want a job? I'm like, I do. I'm also in the middle of this match. I really got to go, but I'll call you back in an hour.
Theaters were good for hiring kids that like had that time.
Yep.
Like the weekends, because that's when you needed it.
Mhm.
Like your games were always on like a Friday night or something like that.
Yep.
And then Saturday, Sunday were the big shows.
I will say the theater still remains as
Say
one of the top jobs I've ever had.
Absolutely, without question, I still believe that.
Yeah.
I'll say just for my sake, at the time I was also working, when I got the job, I was working at a restaurant, which you might know, the Food Factory in Lake City. It was the first time I ever had 2 jobs at the same time.
I've never eaten there, but I've
Good.
heard of it.
They introduced me to the concept of frickles. They were like known for frickles.
Isn't that the fried pickles?
Deep fried pickles, but they also at the time wrapped it in ham and Swiss cheese.
Cool.
It was the bomb.
It's like pickles in a blanket.
Pickles in a blanket, yeah.
Okay.
I actually worked in the back of the kitchen and made those all day. Man, I ate so much Swiss cheese in the back. Holy shit. But anyways, yeah, at the time I was just a staffer.
Oh, I forgot. You worked 2 jobs when you first started at the theater.
Correct.
Yeah.
I was at the Food Factory and...
Matter of fact, I don't think there was ever a moment in time of your time at the theater where that was your only job.
That's right. I was hustling back in the day.
Pizza Hut, I remember that.
Pizza Hut. Oh shit! I've had a podcast where I've talked about my jobs, and I don't think I listed that one on there because it was like 3 days over the course of like 6 months.
You gotta have me on here, and I'll just be here like, look it up, John.
Remind me. Oh, also, no, we're coming back to this.
No, we're keeping on this.
We're keeping. No, I want to. Oh wait, no, we've already talked about the fact that you have apparently already been here, and I was like,
yeah.
I thought John had
David
never
texted me. He's like, "Hey, when you get here, make sure to go up the staircase on the right, and this is my address." I'm like, "Dude, this is my 3rd time here."
I think it's your 2nd. It's got to be your 2nd.
This is definitely my 3rd
Maybe
time.
you've picked me up. This is your 2nd time in the house because he's probably right. But I'm gonna die on this hill only because when we first moved in here, that's when you came over. Because it was like, I got a new spot. Like, you should come check it out. But we didn't have anything in here. I'm sure. But
You are correct.
okay.
And then there was one time after that,
And then apparently
which is
there was
when
that,
we had pizza out there.
I thought that was the first time, and that's why we did the pizza out there. Is because it was. Anyways, back to the Cadillac 5. So yeah,
Yes.
when I got there, you were my manager.
I was. So when I worked there for about a year and a half. I think I worked at the movie theater about 3 years total. So I worked there about a year and a half. And that was my only job when I graduated high school, when I was attending NMC up in Traverse City. That is the only job I had because I was doing half work, half school.
Yep.
So
Just a quick thing. Can we get to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So so when I got out of high school and I finally turned 18, that's roughly around the time they opened up the interviews.
Yep.
And I interviewed, and
for shift managers.
for shift manager, nothing crazy.
There was Top Dog, which we can plug the names. I mean, it's not plugging. I'm just saying. We had Rich, who we didn't know outside of from just the theater.
Mm-hmm.
You might have met Dan at the theater.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I knew Dan before then, but it was Rich and Dan were like the manager assistant manager, and then they had 3 to 4 shift managers.
Yep.
And that's what John was going for.
Yep. So, when I applied to be a shift manager, I didn't really think I was going to get it. And
especially because you're a kid.
I was literally a child. I cannot stress that I was a child. And when I applied, and then they ended up doing an interview, and it was me and a couple other people. And they, then they called after those interviews, like, John, you would like to be a shift manager? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. But come to find out, I was talking to Dan, and Dan's like, I'm going to be real. Prior to entering that day, you were not in the running. Like, it was just 2 people, and you were the 3rd formality.
Takes charisma, man.
And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So, and to be fair, once I started managing, I was still a child. Like, I cannot stress that children, besides Rich and Dan and Aaron, children were running that whole place.
That is correct.
And it did just fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with it.
You weren't there during film strips being acquired, right?
No, when I started,
it was all digital?
I think when I started, they were like 6 months having upgraded.
Right. Because I remember hearing stories of like what it's like to like load film in, which I heard like horror stories about it. The closest thing that we ever had to that was, man, I'm so excited that we're getting to this. I'm so glad that you brought this up because I have so many thoughts on it. But the closest thing that we got to like the real back in the day experience was those like nuclear bombs of light bulbs. Do you remember?
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, in a projector movie theater, an actual projector.
Bright light.
Yeah, they have a bulb in it that's probably the size of
a face.
Yeah, or just think of like any sort of like bottle of wine, like probably about that big.
Yeah.
This liquid death can right here, that's about it.
The height wise, but it had some girth.
Yeah.
It was a girthy bulb.
So those bulbs are very sensitive to anything that touches it besides latex or rubber. So if your skin, oil touches it or anything, they literally just explode. And I'm talking shards of glass going everywhere.
Which, before we get to what we would do with them, just to pick up on that, which meant that we needed, if we were changing the bulbs, to use like protective gear, like use gloves. We've used just like latex rubber gloves. Or
so they had it
was the big beefy guys.
They had big old rubber gloves. They had a face shield and the equivalent of like a bomb vest that you'd have to go in there. But the only issue is that the gloves were so big and the kind of port to get the bulb out was so small that most of the time you would just kind of put your normal hand in there, but only try and grab the metal
and remember,
get it out.
Children
like
are running this.
So OSHA was not a fan.
No, I think what OSHA didn't know didn't hurt him.
No, so eventually we did get them out, and then it came time to because you had to destroy the bulbs because they were
hazardous.
Bombs waiting to go off.
Yep. So you had to pre-detonate them before putting them in the garbage, and usually, I believe I might have been allowed to do it once, but Rich would package them up in their like foam packaging, and then slide it into the cardboard box that it belonged in, and then it's a separate case. And there was a long hallway in the back that like led towards the stock.
Yep. And he would whip those down the hallway.
I'm glad that you just said it because I'm realizing maybe we shouldn't say it, but I don't give a fuck.
No.
That was.
But I think that's the way to do it.
I think that you're supposed to do it.
Because you can't ship them. You can't throw them away without them being...
But he would take them, and we'd be like, clear! And you'd throw them down the hallway, turn like this, and you're like a bop. And
there would be glass, even though, like David said, even though it'd be bulb, foam, box.
Yep.
There would still be glass that had made it through to the final piece of the like outer box.
Well, and that's why the only reason I was like hesitant about it is because I was talking about the fact that it was back with like stock and stuff, which is where anybody went. It was like, there might be glass shards.
Yeah, it could be glass in your popcorn tub.
Who knows, dude?
Yeah, there's not.
But also, the reason it wasn't that sketch is because also that building was 1 billion years old.
Oh, yeah.
And
before we get into this part, I want to talk about...
before we get into this part, we're just going to clip and cut to the... Okay. You want to talk about what?
Yeah, so before we get to this part
that
specifically that we have circled, it's worth mentioning not only is the theater old, but it used to be an actual stage theater.
That's correct.
So behind theater...
What was it called? Do you remember?
Richard would be so mad at us.
I know he'd be so disappointed. I could probably hit him up.
Like Lilith or something, but it's not right.
Yeah, whatever.
But anyway, so behind theaters 4, which is now like Cadillac 4, which is all one thing. So behind that...
Well, let's just say the way that it was such a small theater that usually, like, if you're listening and you're in a bigger city or whatever, especially if you're like near Grand Rapids, you think of like bigger hallway type theaters where there's like theater screens on either side. It was kind of shaped like an L, this building. Yep. And on the long L part of the hallway was theaters 1, 2, and 3. And then on the shorter L part was 4 and 5. 4 and 5 got mushed together and became just 4 when it went from the Cadillac 5 to the Cadillac 4.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
So behind the actual screen of Theater 4 was the stage from where it used to be a movie theater.
Yep.
There used to be like an actual stage play theater.
I don't want to step on your toes, so go ahead.
So not only was that, and you could go down underneath the stage, but it's worth mentioning just how old and crazy this building was. Back when you went downstairs to like the employee area, and then you went behind a door, and then behind another door.
Wait. Are you talking about behind Theater 4 right now?
No.
You're talking about the actual... Yep. Okay,
so it leads to what we only deemed as the caves.
The caves.
So this...
Which, wow.
Yeah, so this area was...
I wonder if I could get some pictures sent to me.
I'm probably pretty sure you could. So this area there was no electricity. It was completely dark, and there were some like concrete rooms built, but then it just kept going, and it really turned into then it's just dirt, and then it's just like.
Well, I want to set it up a little bit more. Just so we're describing so upstairs where the projectors are is where the stock is and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But downstairs is like where we would count our drawers, where we would like hang. Some people like left their
coat.
They
like
put their
employee
coats and stuff
lockers.
down. Yep, there was lockers and stuff down there. The heater. Were you there for the heater?
No.
I
don't know. Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about that. Anyways, so underneath all of that, tucked behind all of that, was in like maybe a 2.5. Gus, 1 moment. Gus, can you go lay down, bud? Go lay down. Go lay down.
All right, we're good.
Good boy. He's just whipping the microphone. There was like this 2.5, maybe 3 foot high door.
Yep.
That was like clearly not meant for people to walk through and like just hang out in.
It's not like a spot small enough where you're like, I don't know if I was supposed to get in there.
Correct. And you would like creak the door open and then duck your head, and now you're in this like powerless area. Yeah.
So a little backstory as to why these exist is that they have since been
cool.
So they've since been boarded up, closed off, but during the Prohibition, that's where they used to run alcohol throughout the city.
Yep.
So you could essentially go from the theater across the street to what was G&D Pizza.
Yep.
And like the tunnels connect. That's why we call them the tunnels.
I believe, I believe that it was used during Prohibition times, but I think it goes back even earlier than that. That it was just like an underground system for transportation of things underneath the entirety of that main part of the city. So like I think it goes all the way, maybe a half mile, maybe a full mile down the road. It's weird to think about what could exist in those tunnels.
So the reason I bring up the fact that it was a stage theater, and the reason I bring up the caves brings us into
what I have circled. I just have a little sheet of notes here just for topics that I thought maybe we could talk about, and John wrote some more on here just to contribute. The Haunting of Caddy 5. Because let me tell you, George, George is a particular name. I still hold fast to my disbelief in most demons and ghosts and paranormal activity. I have no explanation for a lot of things that happened at that place.
Yep.
Would you like to lead just on the perception?
So,
also, I'm sorry, there's one fruit fly that is driving me
if you get it, you get it.
Dude. It came from a plant.
So where this all stemmed from was supposedly, back when this was a stage theater, someone named George.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry to step on your toes again. I wanted to pick up on this because I didn't know where you were going with talking about the layout. When you were talking about the stage theater, back there, so much so it holds on to the resemblance of its former self that as soon as you go behind the actual screen, it just looks like it was behind the scenes. So there's like drawstrings to like pull.
There's the original curtain still there.
The original curtain is there.
The catwalk is still there.
The catwalk is there. You can actually see it used to be like a balcony on the other side.
It's all still there.
So yeah, these ropes were there, except for one.
Except for one, because supposedly a man named George
can neither confirm nor deny
hung himself from the catwalk, in which why there's one rope from the curtains missing, and why that rope is on the catwalk cut, because they're like, oh, we gotta get someone.
But
down.
not just like severed, like
we gotta
when
get
you
this
cut it
down.
and like threads wire.
Yeah.
So George is maybe he's since been exorcised. Was
the word? It is, but just they gotta try to know.
Exorcised. The dominant figure of ghostly endeavors there. So like he's the name that if like what was that?
That was George.
That was George.
So Which all sounds fun
So
in
funny we're
games,
talking
but when
about
you
this.
start working there, everyone warns
My heart's
you.
pounding thinking about it.
So when you start working there, everyone warns you, hey, just a heads up, some really freaky stuff goes on here. No one can explain it.
Yep.
We are convinced that this theater is in fact haunted.
Which I will say, I'm pretty sure you were probably the person who gave me that conversation.
Rich, I'm pretty sure it was Rich. It might have been Dan. Like literally part of being a shift manager, they're like, you need to be
Tell people
them.
about it. Yeah.
Because if they work a night shift,
Yes.
they need to know
Correct.
that stuff will happen.
Because like I don't remember the exact conversation that we would have had, but I do remember hearing that conversation from somebody and being like, okay.
Which most people had that. They're like, all right, I get it, sure. So, some of the stuff that happened there was, it was just kind of like whatever, like, oh, the lights will flicker on and off and no one will be there. Like, but then there was actually stuff that
I'm literally getting those like heart palpitations of like.
There is one story that I can kind of sum up this whole thing that happened between me and you alone. Because I was working downstairs and I had just done all the inventory for the
Oh, wait, is this the screwdriver story? Were you here for that?
No.
Because that's what I'm going to
Different
tell.
one.
I'm going to tell that story.
So we were working downstairs, I was working downstairs.
Downstairs?
No, like I was working on the main floor.
Main floor. I was
and
upstairs.
I had just done an inventory. I'm putting it all on the computer, and all I know is that you came down from being upstairs, and you're like, "Hey, John, what'd you need?" And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've been here for like the last hour, and you're like, no, like literally someone in a suit was off the peripheral.
Oh
of
my
vision,
god, yes!
peripheral of my vision.
Holy!
And I was like, John, I'm counting something. I'll get back in a second. And I'm like, dude, I cannot stress enough. Like, jokes aside, we joke around a lot there.
Yes.
We prank each other.
Yes.
I could not be more serious. I have been down here this whole time.
So, unless I'm stepping on your toes here.
Go for it.
My recollection of that was literally just a casual, like, I'm up in the projector room. John, oh my god. I'm getting chills thinking about this. That's why, like, I do have to preface with saying, like, I don't buy it. What happened to us probably isn't paranormal. But whoa. This particular example, I remember being up in the projector room.
Yep.
That first, like, main area, because there's that L again for the longer ones, but I'm in that first area. Maybe doing stock or something, and you came up and you're like, hey, Dave, oh my god. You're like, hey, David, do you have a second? And I was like, hang on, I'll be down in just a second. And you're like, okay, just let me know because I got
a full-blown conversation.
It was a thing. It was like and so I was like, okay, you got it.
It is worth noting too, you cannot get up there unless you're an employee.
Correct.
And it's just the two of us working.
Right. Come back down. John is straight up just denying that he was up there. That is the story, but
shit like that happened all the time.
The disbelief of like, are you really fucking with me, John? So, do you have any? I have one.
I have one other.
Yeah, hit me.
Not that this one's crazy, but this one also happened.
Mine's upsetting. Like, I don't.
You would be upstairs and you have like boxes upon boxes of popcorn tubs,
Yes.
of cups, of candies, whatnot, and like these are heavy boxes and they're stacked and they're big enough that like pallet on pallet.
Yeah, because we'd get inventory on X day or whatever, and they would all be moved up.
Not a ton of stuff happened when two people were up there.
It was like, and I'm sorry to step on your toes.
Yeah.
It was like if a figure existed, it wanted to single you out.
Yep. So there has been so many times where I or Aaron or Dan
I feel like
or whoever.
I believe her and I got the worst of George.
Yeah.
I believe that.
So there are times where I would be counting inventory and like a box that had been sitting there for weeks, I had yet to even count it yet. I would be counting inventory somewhere and then out of nowhere, just one sleeve of tubs out of a box falls.
Man, it's literally doing that thing like when you are scared and your heart sinks, remembering the fears of when that kind of stuff happened and the like gaslighting you'd have to do to yourself to be like,
that was nothing.
That didn't happen. That did not happen. There's no way that could happen.
Yep.
And then would happen again.
Which, I mean, I know someone listening to this is probably like, oh, it was just your coworkers. It was a fun prank. But like,
coworkers,
no.
There is probably, and I feel like I must believe this, there is probably some explanation.
There very well is maybe something.
For most of the stuff. I think one of the things that my brain goes to is like, you know, I was big into like the ghost hunters and paranormal hunting shows because I didn't buy them. But their excuse for like, well, ma'am, your house isn't actually haunted. Here's what's happening. Is like there's certain circuitry and wiring that like
or frequencies
that when it interacts with our bodies, like it can induce anxiety.
You
feel something.
But that something doesn't pick up a stack of tubs out of a taped closed box.
Okay. So I gotta tell the screwdriver story.
All right, y'all. If you're watching the video version, see that skull? See this? This is not a punk house, it's a punk home banner. All of these things are available at catandcrew.com. That's right. They're the first sponsors. Catandcrew.com. Enter the promo code Monday. It's Monday, MUNDAY, to receive 10% off of your final purchase. You can get those koozies, you can get banners, you can get earrings, you can get coasters, you can get skull planters. I think it's really cool that they decided to give A.D.H.Deep-Dive listeners an exclusive deal. Because, you know, it's cool that we're building a little audience here and that you guys get to have some sort of special perks that nobody else gets. So if you aren't familiar with it yet, go to catandcrew.com, enter the promo code Monday, MUNDAY at checkout, get 10% off your final order. Okay, back to the show.
There's actually a clapboard right above you. But okay, my only real memorable example of being like, not just like uneasy, but petrified at what was happening. And it's been so long that I'm probably going to remember some of the specifics differently. Mm-hmm. But the through line is still the same. I believe I was upstairs by myself. This is the part that I don't remember. Either I was upstairs by myself or I was up there with Rich, but Rich was in
down around the corner.
Yeah. Like towards Theater 3.
Which is worth noting too. If anything happened with Rich present, Rich was the last person to ever.
He would
never like this.
Because
he was terrified himself, and he's like, "No one. If I go upstairs, no one comes with me."
I'm calling him out, and I think he'd think that this was funny. There's a particular example when we're talking about him throwing the boxes. I remember Rich used to be very uncomfortable touching styrofoam,
which that's what those bulbs come.
It'd be like
caked in.
Like that sound of like the glass.
That was nails on a chalkboard to him.
Yeah. I'm just all that to say he was not the guy to fuck with me if somebody was going to fuck with me in this way. Yeah. And there's no way for him to have done it. So basically just picture, for whatever reasons, just so you can get in your mind the layout, 2 squares next to each other. And those squares are rooms. There's adjacent rooms in each of these rooms or whatever, but the way that it's laid out is there's a door that gets you from the room that the projectors are in to the room that the storage is in. And again, there's subdivisions of rooms throughout. But that door was usually held by a screwdriver that is wedged underneath.
Instead of a door stop.
Yeah, instead of a door stop. But it was thick enough that like it needed like the weight of it was a heavy door is the main point, and like if it wasn't wedged like that, it slammed.
And when it slammed, you couldn't open it. That's the reason it was propped open, is because it locked from the other side.
I don't remember that.
Yep.
Wait.
If you were in the storage area,
you're not locked inside.
You couldn't get out.
I think you're remembering that incorrectly.
Okay,
only because if that was the case, I might be
thinking of the projectors for 1, 2, 3. That
projector, yeah. That one for sure. Because the way that I remember this,
because they were like, hey, when you're closing alone, if you get that door shut,
don't shut it behind you. Yep.
Because
you can also get to the roof from that.
Yeah.
From that room. I just splashed fucking whiskey myself, and it's now I should be drinking this fast. Anyways, so the screwdriver that held this door would sometimes, just like door wedges do, it would like slide, or if you bump it, it would do this kind of thing. And sometimes it would just scare the shit out of you because it would just happen and then the door would slam and you wouldn't be ready for it. So I say that to set up the fact that this happened. The screwdriver fell out of the door and it slammed behind me. Getting that feeling. And then I adjusted the screwdriver. I was like, wow, that was loud. That kind of set me off.
Put it there, you like kicked it in tight.
I kick it back in there. The door is wide open. The door is wide open. Is this visual? Can I see it? Is this on video? If you're watching the video version, if this is the screwdriver, it went like, it just, okay, now if you're not listening, if you're not watching, and that was all audio, instead of just falling out of the door, the screwdriver went like in a straight line down the hallway, out of the door. So, if I must apply some sort of rational explanation.
Something launched it.
Maybe,
but not the door.
Maybe the tension of the door, when it slid out, sent the screwdriver flying. It went so far, so fast, so suddenly, the door slammed so fast that I physically started crying.
You came down and you're like, guys,
dude, I was like,
what happened?
I came out and I told whoever was down there, like, I'm scared right now. I'm not just like, I'll do my job, I understand, but please don't.
You didn't go upstairs for a long time.
That, that to this day, it is the only time, that and seeing things in the window, like from the road.
The road window?
Was the only time I've been convinced that, like, I could be wrong about this whole paranormal thing.
Which I'll say in my life too, like, I don't know if I've ever experienced any sort of paranormal anything that I would be like, even remotely believing.
Especially when you want to believe.
Without a doubt, and I still don't even know if I believe in any of it. But with that being said, I believe 100% the Cadillac 5. The Cadillac 4.
Cadillac 4.
Building is haunted.
The building, the infrastructure itself contains something that has yet to leave despite changes in ownership. George was not content with just his old boss.
Well, I mean, it's not like he died when Goodrich owned the stage theater.
But,
so changing of contracts doesn't do anything for this spirit.
Ghost man.
So if you're looking to buy a Cadillac 4 building in the future,
that's a wise investment to make. Oh yeah. Anyways, I realize now that I had a transition, but I want to first say I wrote the heater on here. Mm-hmm. This might have been after your time, which I don't think we're done talking about the theater. Okay. Because I think that's a funny story, regardless of the circumstances. I think it's funny to tell.
We'll get to that. Once we're starting there.
No, I'll just say I don't remember if it was before or after your time, but during the winter, the heater was running downstairs, and it was some old heating unit, but it had like a fan blower, and the fan was like those heavily curved ones, or the blades were like those heavily curved ones. So if there was any type of warp, it became metal on metal scraping, like as it was like scraping along the inside of the box. Yeah. And towards the end of its life, it was doing that a lot. And I went downstairs in the middle of the winter when it was like pumping, and because it's a fan spinning, it was blowing fire out.
I was not there for this.
It was whatever. I realize now, because I am probably going to tell Rich he should watch this, he would probably feel annoyed about me telling this story.
Let's also keep in mind,
I don't care. I don't work there.
There are children running this building.
Children running this building. And again, I don't really care. It's fine. We're not outing anybody. It's just a small building.
It was fun.
If he would have had it had nothing to do
with the demographic of people working a minimum wage entry-level job are working this building.
Yes. So that thing was like blowing out fire. Honestly, what I could have done is unplug the heater and then get the fire extinguisher. But we got the fire. I ran upstairs like, Aaron, get the fire extinguisher. She gets the fire extinguisher, starts hitting it while I'm looking for the breaker to cut it. Yeah. But when I did that, I'm pretty sure I cut like something upstairs as well. And then people were like starting to get clued in on the fact that there was like a fire happening. And so people were like, what? And then smoke starts coming up a little bit. And then the like fire extinguisher thing came off. So like theaters got evacuated because of the downstairs heater blowing fire. And I'm just a kid, man. But we saved the day. It did not burn down the theater. That place is, or definitely was, a fire hazard. Oh. I don't know if it's not now.
The nature of just being
it's an old building. Such an old building. You had something that that you said, yes. Okay. John's time at the theater came to an end. So in a pretty funny way to me.
Which I'll say, I spent years being embarrassed by this.
Mm-hmm. Because if you get fired,
I get fired. Well, spoiler, I got fired.
Well, it's weird you said it, right?
No, you said my time came to a funny end.
maybe I'll in post I'll.
No, we're good. So,
but yeah.
I got fired, and for the longest time, I was embarrassed to talk about it because I'm like, I've never been fired for a job. Who was fired from the movie theater? I got fired for such a dumb reason, and
pretty funny reason.
Which then brought me.
Which actually, was it the movie I'm thinking of? Yeah, it was, because the movie that is relevant was my first official time on as a manager. Because a lot of times working with you, I was at MIT. I was a manager in training. So I was training under John a lot. But that's like a 6-month process, dude. Yep. It was such a long training process. For nothing. For the ability to count money at the end of the day and put out fires and deal with ghosts.
And how to make the schedule.
I didn't never made the schedule. But on the first official movie that I became a manager
was...
Yeah, am I good to say it? Okay. Was 50 Shades of Grey. And just for what it's worth, on my part, I got approved in the morning to be like, all right, David, you're good. You can be a manager. Which means...
Coming in your suit. Today's your first day.
Yep. You go from being in a bow tie...
A red vest
and a white long sleeve... Or short sleeve, I think. But I think we had to be long sleeve.
I was long sleeve, but I rolled.
Yeah, I did too. Well, I couldn't because I had tattoos. I had tattoos, which was so dumb. Anyways,
but then you switched to...
So yeah, when you go to so anyways, I want to continue the outfit as well because it's quite the get up. You just picture a movie theater employee, a staffer. Mm-hmm. The bow tie, the red vest, the button with like the 2 or 3 buttons.
They're always wearing way more than they really should.
Yeah, that's what the long black slacks with dress shoes that were non-stick. Or what not non-stick.
They were non-slip.
Non-slip. These were...
Because keep in mind, butter is everywhere back behind the counter.
Slippery tiled butter. Or slippery buttered tile.
Just as a quick life hack, if you have butter all over the floor in your kitchen, put salt down.
An enormous amount of table salt.
We always, because the salt that went in the popcorn, we just like put that all over the floors. That's why it looks like we did cocaine back there.
Amount of topics, so bad. The amount of topics I brought, and we're talking about the movie theater.
Just the top, bottom too.
I love it so much.
We'll get to the bottom. Last one last.
So on that day, I was working. I might have even worked either a long shift or I picked up a shift at night or something like that. So
you were working usher.
I was working the long day is what I meant. So I came in the morning, or maybe it was either way, long day. I came in the manager in training clothes or the staffer clothes, and then I got approved like halfway through the day. And I lived right across the street, so they're like, if you have a suit, you're approved. Go on and go get it. That was the first time I've ever been sexually assaulted in my life. Old ladies, any ladies with the booze on them were like butt squeezing.
To go see 50 Shades.
To go see 50 Shades of Grey. They were like, caressing me. Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. After the movie, like, ooh, I like your suit.
Not that it makes it okay.
Listen, and I gotta be honest, I probably was like loving it at the moment. But I just think technically, yeah, I was being sexually assaulted.
There are horny teenagers that were in this building.
Yeah, so the attention was nice. But alas, the nice time I was having was just an unfortunate setup to John's ultimate demise.
So, why I ended up getting fired. There's the fruit fly.
It's the fruit fly, I know!
Why I ended up getting fired was because when people came in that I knew, I would always make sure they got the best price possible. Being that if I was at high school with them, I'd give them the student discount because they're students.
Bro, it's crazy you thought you'd get away with that.
I know. So, but that was a true, I'm not charging them an adult price, they are students or high school students. I don't need to see their ID. They're in class with me. But why I got fired is because for $1 a ticket cheaper was a child ticket.
Yes.
So when a couple of my friends from high school came in, I was like, yo, I got you. 2 child tickets to 50 Shades of Grey.
Bro.
With no adult ticket being sold with it.
So I just remembered that I was there when they discovered what you had done.
Because keep in mind, it happened somewhere else at other theaters.
Yes.
And they're like,
so
wait.
It's important to put into context how big of a deal it was at the time when that movie came out, that this was an NC-17 movie, which was pretty much softcore porn in your local mom and pop movie theater. And so
it was typically a pretty conservative area.
And so there was the pressure on not in my town, my kids will not be exposed to this. Yep. And so there was a campaign to more strict than just
this is the same town that protested our theater when opening weekend we didn't get Heaven is for Real, the movie.
Was it Heaven is for Real?
Or could it be God's Not Dead?
God's Not Dead.
One of the two.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
And I was like, we're getting it next week, people.
Yeah. Because that would happen. These niche Christian flicks would have their small 2-weekender run at our theater.
Successfully.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why
they came there.
Yeah,
the demographic was there.
But then you'd get a few box office hits, the big ones, only the biggest ones, because we only had 5 screens. And yeah, so when you're behind the screen, you either, well, first of all, it goes without saying that your fatal mistake
was a child ticket.
Was the child's ticket. Because, again, like he said, you could have reasonably been, if you're just looking at okay, what kind of tickets did we sell today? It's so funny you thought you'd get away with that. Well, when the managers are looking okay, what did we sell today? You would see
pull me an audit. What did we sell? It's wait, we sold a dozen child tickets today to this NC-17.
So
show me.
But you did it, I think, for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm there on Sunday.
And then on Saturday night.
Yeah. I think you must have done it Friday night too. But that's why. Because it was
it was just one time. But regardless.
Oh, it was only the one time?
It was just the one time.
Oh, okay. But regardless, on Sunday, you see the what did we do this weekend for this show? And I'm there either in the morning on Sunday. Oh, I was, because it was the kids show.
Yeah, it was the free kids
show. Every Sunday morning.
The real kids show.
Yeah, there would be a real child's show that you could get into for free, and then popcorn was either regular price or just discounted. Mm-hmm. Main point is tickets were free. It was an old movie. So, you could come and watch Shrek 2 or something like that.
The Incredibles is rerunning in 2013.
Exactly.
2014, something like that.
And so I'm there with Dan and Rich, which again, it's funny that I'm thinking of Rich hearing this and being don't say that, but I don't care, it's fine. When in the morning, they're let's look at what we got. Oh, we sold X amount of tickets, X amount of child's tickets. That's a problem. We've got to see who did that. And
which it's worth noting too.
Really, are you about to talk about the cameras?
Well, no. It's worth noting too that Rich, to my understanding, didn't go out and check it himself just because
there's pressure to.
There was a good Rich push because 100%. They're hey,
we've got problems.
We are noticing.
Globally.
Yeah, we are noticing that a lot of child tickets have been sold this movie. Can you guys double check
right.
when the ticket was sold.
It's important to say that.
Look at the camera.
It's more important to say that we were, because usually it'd be like, okay, if there's an NC-17 film and it's like a horror film, and some dad brings his kid in, and we're like, are you sure it's NC-17? You probably shouldn't.
Super sure.
And the dad's like, listen, it's my kid, it's my rules. I say you can watch it, you can watch it. At that point, you give up and you say, okay, you have expressly said you'll take him in. We were expressly told not with this movie. Like at our theater, we cannot allow anyone under the age of 17 to watch this. So not just that children's tickets were rare, it was that they were forbidden.
Shouldn't be.
Yeah. They were forbidden. Yeah, I think that was why. But yeah, I see them then go, oh yeah, which again, only for the managers, like the two top managers, the manager and assistant manager, were the camera angles
visible.
Yeah, so like we knew that like there's a camera there and a camera there and a camera there. It could be pointing here, it could be pointing over here. We don't know, and that's probably for the best.
Yep.
Because if we have any like camera's not going to see me, even though I definitely check my phone in the back room.
Absolutely.
Which was a fireable offense, and many people were fired.
If you were caught on your phone once.
For a moment.
Done.
Gone. 2013, 2012, that time? Yeah. 12 years ago, bro.
That's nuts.
Holy shit. Anyway.
You now have a watch, so tell me when I get a text.
That's crazy. But again, I saw them go like, well, we've got to check the footage.
Ladies and gentlemen.
And we got them. And I remember being next to them when Dan audibly went, because I don't think anybody expected that it was going to be you.
Which is worth noting that I was not the only person at the Cadillac Theater to have done that. There was one other person that I will not name because they left with me. And then
write it down.
Then there was
wait, they left with you?
Like they got fired with me.
Wait. Then why aren't you naming them? Oh, wait, they got fired for that offense.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So
I see. Yeah, don't name them. I see.
Yeah, and then
I thought you were saying like they got away with it.
No,
I was like, what? I would have called them out immediately.
No, they got fired. And then it's also worth noting that Goodrich wide, I think they said they had like 40 employees
Who's the problem?
who were let go.
Yep.
A mixture of shift managers to like normal employees, MITs. Like this was a pretty widespread. They're like, oh wait, we caught a lot of people mooching the system, which
I'm thinking about
$1.
$1, but it was literally just.
I will say this was also in my 3 years at the movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
My first offense ever. I had never been late. I had never been written up. I had never been anything.
It was because it was that movie and you sold that ticket.
They claimed that it was a one-time fireable offense of stealing from the company.
Yep.
And to which I said, I'll give you
$12.
I was 2 tickets. I'll give you 2. Matter of fact, I'll give you $5. Can we call it even? I talked to the regional manager. I actually had a scheduled meeting with the regional manager that I requested to try and dispute my let go. And he said, I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah. Which, whatever. I was going to throw some people under the bus, but fuck it. I'm realizing 70% of, 70% of what I wrote, give me that guy. 70% of what I wrote is not going to be talked about today, which is totally fine because I'm realizing your notes are kind of more what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to know what was on your brain.
David walked in and he's like, what's on your mind today? I'm like, do pigeons have feelings?
Well, do they? Let's find out. Before I transition to this, I see it starting to drop, so I'm just going to switch the batteries out now. So I would
like to say this quick. I was embarrassed for a long time that I got fired from the theater.
Yeah.
It was the only job in my life I've ever been fired from.
Just quick thing, I'm going to interrupt you real fast. Just to relate, I will, after you say this, talk about the only time I've been fired and feeling that same feeling.
But I will say this. Had I not got fired, I would have never got a job at Family Video. My least favorite job I've ever had.
Okay, all right. Called out.
But because of Family Video, I would have never transferred to the video or the Family Video when I moved to Grand Rapids.
Oh,
which I hated so much, and the perfect job opportunity came in at the right time, which was an apartment complex, which I then met both of my best men at my wedding, met a ton of friends.
Mm-hmm.
Had I worked at the movie theater and then transferred to the movie theater in Grand Rapids, I don't know if I'd ever left that job. I don't know if I would have met the same people I met. I'll say it worked out for a reason, but in the moment I was like, oh, this is terrible. I lost my favorite job I've ever had.
Yeah. First of all, I have to address only just for us because it's not audio. Judah's breath stinks really bad right now. I'm really sorry about that.
All good.
But for what it's worth, we will talk about Family Video in the smallest degree. I don't think that I think it's relevant to maybe talk about external stuff, like the future of media and why Family Video sucks.
And also closed.
Well, right. But the one and only time I've been fired, I think I've talked about this in the podcast, was at Horizon Books.
I remember this.
And all of the entirety of the building was carpet, except for this tiny little patch behind the counter, like that they would stand at and make drinks and
Coffees,
sell books and whatever. And I'll admit, I didn't sweep it at the end of my shift. Probably every time. I probably never.
How much was there to sweep?
Maybe a space of 10 foot by
how dirty
8
was
foot.
it even though? Like, doesn't seem like there was that much stuff to even get it dirty.
Every shift, you're supposed to sweep.
Okay.
So if the person before me swept, probably nothing to sweep, which is why I didn't sweep.
Mm.
And that's why I was fired. Because I was not sweeping at the end of my shift. And they're like, they took me into that little back room. And they're like, okay, we're really sorry to tell you this, but we've been checking the cameras. And we've noticed that you haven't been sweeping at the end of your shift. So I'm really sorry that we're going to have to let you go. I'm like, what the fuck? So yeah, to be fired from a bookstore for not sweeping, to then tell my family and my friends, like, I was fired. Why? I don't know. It was like humiliating.
Yeah.
So I get that. Like, especially at that age where you're like, I'm supposed to be doing something with my life, right? And I thought this was the thing. I'm a manager. And I got fired for $1.
$1. $2. It's like,
but then you got the job at Family Video.
my job from the video.
Which meant you get to keep the suit.
I did keep the suit. Which also is the strangest interview process I've ever had. Because
I also had that interview. I got the job. I got hired. I just never took it.
It was a 4 different interviews with one person and then the manager and then the regional, and then they had you take a math and aptitude test.
The test was egregious.
Literal, it went anywhere from 2 + 2 all the way to what was the first president of the United States?
Yeah, but exactly, it wasn't relevant to okay, so Susie comes in and buys Ghostbusters 2 for $14. How much change you? It was if President Andrew Jackson deducted X% from his salary. I was like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Yep. And so I managed to pass that exam.
It was an exam.
It was an exam.
You were supposed to sit down for 2 hours and take this test.
And I ended up getting a job.
Was it staff or manager?
I was just staff. But I was.
They made you wear a suit as a staffer?
Yeah. But they just wanted you to look nice. To rent videos.
And you're still kids running the fucking...
But, yeah, still kids. So I was working there. I was also working at the Michigan Department of Transportation at the time, which was one of the best jobs I've ever had.
Cool.
But, I started working there, and it was just strange. You're renting videos to people, and which is cool. They're coming in, they're asking for recommendations.
Which again, I'm sorry, at the time is relevant. But like,
this is like
Netflix?
2015. Netflix streaming is already
It's still
well into.
but it's not the biggest thing in the world yet.
Yep.
Like, I still feel like
No.
at the time,
No.
I remember Redbox.
I'm gonna say this.
Okay.
This is the one thing they told me many things that I was like, you guys are nuts.
They tell you.
They
Netflix
told
is
me
never gonna.
no. They said that Netflix was the one N-word you weren't allowed to say there, and I'm not joking.
They
about
said that.
Yes,
Netflix is the one N-word we don't say.
just the one. And I was like,
Honestly,
you
in
wanna
Cadillac,
double-check
Michigan,
that?
I bet that they do.
you want to double check that?
Written after you've taken your exam and clarified to us that you can do proper trigonomics. What?
Yeah, it could
that's
be.
probably a word. Trigonomics?
A little bit of calc in there too.
You do not talk about the end of our business in relation to streaming services.
So yeah, that was interesting.
Wow, they said that.
They said that.
Is there?
The regional told that to me.
Oh, it wasn't just like local
No, it
ship
wasn't.
manager.
It wasn't the shift manager. Wasn't even. It was the regional. He came in to train me for a day because she was like, yeah, like even like under her breath, she's like, yeah, like Netflix. That's the N word we don't say around here, and I'm like, that's the no way, that's the word you don't say around here.
It's so funny, dude.
But no, so I was working there, and it was an interesting job. You know, people coming and renting movies.
Can I just say, I'm sorry. When he came to me with the notes, the note for Cadillac 5 was The Haunting of Caddy 5. The note for Family Video was just FV sucks.
So, but no, like their system sucked. Like it was
Their point of sale?
Point of sale system. It was literally a terminal of white text on black background.
Yeah.
In which you use the function keys for everything.
Yep, it was like an old Windows 95 type program.
It was like you picture Jurassic Park when they're trying to get into the system. That's what it was.
Yep, like white and black matrix type. Yeah.
You have ones and zeros flying over the screen.
Yep.
But no, it was so bad because people are like, hey, you know, I'm trying to rent the movie, but what do I have late? And I'm like, I, for the life of me, can't figure out how to look up what movies you have because I can't even find your account.
How long did you work at the job?
Like
You pulled off a year, I think.
probably a year.
Yeah.
Year and a half. No.
Of what? 3 days a week?
It was less than that because I told them, like, hey, I have this other job that pays me 3 times an hour what you pay me.
Oh, right. Department.
I even told them to their face, I'm only keeping this job because I would like to transfer to the one in Grand Rapids when I move in 3 months. And they're like,
Did you end up doing that?
I did.
Oh, nice.
So it's worth noting the one in Cadillac, I don't necessarily had issues with, but they were fine. Like Cadillac was not a super busy family video.
No,
we
and
even had
honestly,
2 family videos.
I think you're
We had one
right.
across
Where was the
the
second
Wex. The one across from
That's
the Wex
right.
and one by Maggie's.
one? Right, because it was the Subway. No.
Yep.
Was it?
It was by Subway.
Yeah? No.
Yes.
But was it the tattoo shop, or did the tattoo shop and Subway become? Because that was also tied to a Payless. Remember?
Which was right next door to Kaz's.
Yes.
Anyway.
You could pick up your discounted shoes and then go to the strip club and show them off.
I worked at the one closer to the theater.
Right.
So
Yep.
it was fine. Like there was nothing crazy about it. Their system sucked. I had no complaints.
Oh, that's right. Okay. I was thinking it was a separate entity. Or it was inside the building that the Subway's in. This is all relevant to us, not to the podcast, I guess.
Yep.
But right, but occasionally, I think when I hired, they said I'd have to do both.
Yep.
And that was when I was like, no. I have no interest in that.
They were like, can you do both? I'm like, I don't care. And then they never did it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, then I transferred to Grand Rapids.
Right.
What they didn't tell me was that it was the second busiest franchise location in all of their family video network as a whole.
Grand Rapids is pretty hopping.
And to say, literally, like, what happens is movies get dropped in the Dropbox because they're returning.
Right.
You take them all, you scan them in as fast as you can, you alphabetical order all of them, and then you separate them.
Alphabetize.
Well, but then you also separate them by category, like action, new release, children, like, Because then when you make your run around
Right.
the store, you put them back not only in alphabetical order, but by like, well, these ones are up against the wall. These ones are in this shelf.
But
These
what
are
if
in
you
this
get
shelf.
like an action comedy? Are you like, what do I do with this?
Is it a classic?
Right.
Because it could be a classic. So I was actually busting my ass as fast as I could. And at the end of my very first night, they said, I'm going to need about twice as much effort tomorrow.
Ooh.
And I'm like, this is...
Ooh.
This is family video. Like, so I don't know. I couldn't hack it because, again, their system sucked.
Sure.
And I even took notes. Like, I literally had a piece of paper that said, like, F12 to F1, type in last name, F3 to F4 to search the movie title, F7 to see if it's in stock, F6 to see how many copies are left, F8 to see if you can check it out. But then you also had your classic, like...
You are describing the system of Horizon Books as well. That it was the same type of structural organization.
Nuts. And as someone who later went on to be a computer science information system major who made applications
Not to brag.
using like graphic user interface GUIs, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. So, but no. So I literally that was the one moment where I was at Grand Valley. I was struggling to make friends. Roughly, it was pretty close after maybe a month and a half after I moved out, maybe 2. And I was like, my job sucks. College sucks. I'm not making friends. I think I'm going to go home. I don't think I'm going to make it.
Been there.
And
the fear of going like, shit, I gotta crawl back home.
Yep.
It's like, oh.
So then nothing more than a stroke of luck did my mom call me, and she's like, hey, I was at the gym and I was talking to so-and-so that I know, and so-and-so said that their like distant brother-in-law or whatnot is coming to Allendale where Grand Valley is, and he is like a property manager, going to be a property manager for like an up-and-coming property, and he is looking for some people to hire.
Nice.
And I think you should interview. I'm like, all right, well, I'll give it a shot. I go there, I interview, I end up getting the job. And come to find out, he's like, I think I interviewed 117 people, I hired 6.
117 people? Still hiring 6, it's still a small percentage.
And what ended up being one of the coolest jobs I've ever had. But my favorite memory was my last shift at Family Video.
Last shift at Family Video.
I am working there. I am fully aware that I am not coming back. Because he called me.
Did they know?
No, because he called me and he's like, hey.
No 2 weeks.
No, he's like, when? I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about Family Video.
Especially that Family Video. How long were you at the Grand Rapids one? Then, in total?
Probably like 3 months. But it's also worth noting that not only was there a Family Video closer to where I actually lived, they had me go to the one 30 minutes even further than that. I lived in Allendale. They had me go to the Wyoming one instead of Genesee. Or not Wyoming. They had me go to the like complete east side of Grand Rapids as opposed to Genesee.
So you were on like 28th Street?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So
just to be clear, for local Grand Rapids traffic knowledge, 28th Street is not where you want to be.
No. So the guy called me, he offered me the job. He's like, when can you start? I'm like, I could start
right now.
Tomorrow. And I said, the only reason I start tomorrow is because I had my last shift today. And I said last as if I had already given my 2 weeks. But I was like, yeah, I can start tomorrow.
Yep.
He's like, see you there.
Nice.
So I went to my last shift. And the entire time I went there, I had full intention when I started my shift saying, it's going to be my last shift. Literally as soon as I got there, the manager was on my ass. They're giving me shit already. And I'm like, you know what? No. So.
Hell yeah. This is the type of power quitting that I love.
So I worked my whole shift. Shift ended naturally with my manager being like, I need more, man. Like, I need more. And I'm like, that's crazy. Because I won't be here tomorrow. And he's like, oh, who'd you get to cover your shift? I'm like, nobody. And he's like, so you're just quitting without notice? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you realize that you won't be able to come back here. And I said, is that a promise?
Nice.
And he was just like, all right, I guess you're done. And I'm like, and I proceeded to go to one of my favorite jobs ever.
Well, and just a quick thing. Listen. We happened to be managers at really cool gigs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's the only time I've been in a managerial position. And I was too young to, like, for that to matter.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But if you are working a job that you hate, like being the local shift manager at Family Video on the busiest business street in Grand Rapids, and somebody fucks you like that, I'd be pretty pissed.
Yep.
However,
as an employee,
couldn't care less, dog. Because you know that guy hates his job.
Well, so that's the thing, though. It's like,
and you're like, really? You're fucking me? The rest of us haven't quit yet.
Well, that's the thing.
Well,
You just treat others with respect and the way you want to be treated.
Get that fucking
And he
moral.
They did not. And all I will say about this is that they made me feel like shit that I scorched that bridge leaving.
Yeah.
Look who's still standing now, Family Video.
John owns Family Video
I do.
and sold it.
And I upgraded their software.
No, they Family Video is no longer in business. Want to know why?
Because the one N-word I was not allowed to say.
Which is why I'm here to say...
No, but seriously, like, that was a dying business even as I joined it.
Which, strangely enough, I think somehow we can take it to the one note I brought.
Okay.
What we can get it there. We're not
if
yet.
It's the
yet.
top. This is the very top. Yeah, I can go for hours.
We're not...
Flip it over.
Hell yes! Okay, all of this is stuff I'm reserving for the future. For other things. I'm gonna out it. I wrote AI is a bitch. I have yet to talk about AI in a large capacity with anyone on the podcast. You're probably the guy to do it with.
I spent a lot of time in the last couple of years with AI. Both in a professional setting, but also in a, like, production setting as well.
We're going to come back to this. We're going to give ourselves, at most, 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay? All I wrote was AI is a bitch. Because you've probably had a similar question for me, but a lot of people ask me...
Can I ask it, see if I have the same question?
Yeah.
With the advancement of AI technology, especially over the last year, both for photo, video, and like Chat GPT and just everything, how does that affect you as a content creator?
Yes.
When, a little backstory, there's such a huge advancement in the last month.
Yeah, it was a big one.
About video AI, that part of it said you can completely just not even need to hire someone for B-roll footage.
That's where it affects me.
Because you can just type, busy highway with specifically red cars passing.
Yep.
And you'll get a photo reel.
Yep.
You would never even know it was AI generated.
Right now you do. There are still some glitches.
I will say give it
6 months. Yep. That's funny.
That's funny.
Holy shit. 6 months top, and you can no longer believe what you see. And in that regard...
How does that...
So this is why I said AI is a bitch. Because... it affects certain aspects of my passive income, and that's it. Aside from editorial footage, stock websites are no longer necessary. Yep. Which is a big part of what I do. Occasionally, I will get...
You and I have gone out and shot B-roll.
Yep. I'll just go get stock footage that, like... Occasionally, someone needs a shot of somebody getting in an elevator, or they need a shot of a mechanic working on a car, but it doesn't have any distinguishable faces. It doesn't have any distinguishable brands or logos or anything like that.
Or an example could be drone aerial footage of a vineyard on a peninsula in a bay at sunset.
Yes. That part is probably done in the next 2 years.
I would almost say 6 months.
6 months, the technology is there. But
Which
when does
I would
society adapt?
I would say 6 months for the technology to get there. Another 2 to 3 months for every B-roll footage website to just get flooded.
Correct. Which is why at that point, just the saturation of the market will phase me out.
Yep.
It's a good thing I don't rely on that income. There are people that do. That will fuck them. And that's a problem. And I think there's things I'm going to come back to.
Which I'll note this really quick. AI is good at what it does, but it does not replace specific generation of video for specific events. Like if I
Hold up.
Yeah.
That's why AI is a bitch.
Yep.
Because AI can take away the painting. This is going to be a shit analogy. I already see it coming. AI can take away the painting, but it cannot take away the process of painting. Mm-hmm. In that I've used Instagram threads once in the last maybe 5 months, and it has been to say that the recent technological advancements in AI will start the greatest boom in human-created storytelling content that we've seen in the last 20 years. It will inspire people who refuse to use AI to create films and tell stories to be like, nah, we're better than the robots. In the same way, wedding cinematography,
yep.
AI can't come in and shoot your wedding. Maybe one day the robots will.
Well, even to an extent too, you're shooting you want aerial photography of your specific product, like a car.
Correct.
For a commercial.
Yes.
And you're not going to say, hey, aerial photography of my new Ford Mustang GT 305. Like, the AI is not going to know what that is to be able to do that perfectly.
Specific new products, things that are happening. And that's why
or
editorial.
Last thing too, any AI photo or video of real estate. You're not going to say 1812 Sunset Lane.
Right.
It's not going to know what that is.
Physical products aren't affected by AI.
Yeah.
So the corporate events I'm coming to shoot, or the weddings that I'm coming to shoot, or the product photography that I'm doing, that's not affected.
But if you're watching Suits on Netflix and you just need people walking across the street in New York, that's replaced entirely.
Yep.
City taxis going down the street, that's replaced entirely.
Yep. And for that reason, so your parents and my parents are probably going to use AI. It's that rapidly approaching that it's just older people were late to catch up to Facebook, but really it's dominated by older people now.
Yep.
AI, that type of tool, is going to be a not commodity. Maybe commodity is the word. Something. It's going to be a toy, like a Snapchat filter, in that everybody's going to be able to do some pretty simple stuff. So much so that you probably won't be able to tell if that person took a Snapchat video of them actually near the Eiffel Tower, or if this filter got so good that it made me believe they were near the Eiffel Tower. However, if you suck at storytelling,
it's not going to make you a better storyteller.
Correct. Yeah. You still need to do text prompts to get those text prompts of a person is walking slowly towards the camera pans out. You have to be so specific in your language in order to communicate to this AI model this 24 frames per second shot slowed down. There are so many variables that matter that if you get any of those wrong, the AI is going to get it wrong.
Yep.
maybe that'll change in the future. But when you're telling a story, like I still feel like a good storyteller, it will only make for more content generated by good storytellers, because the people who, and I'm sorry I'm ranting here, but the people who were able to conceptualize good stories but couldn't film it or couldn't like capture it in any way can now turn their books into movies. Mm-hmm. But the people who sucked at writing in the first place, it's not really going to affect me.
Yeah.
AI's a punk bitch.
It is.
I'm not afraid of it. Desk workers, you should be afraid.
The funniest thing about AI...
We can talk more than 10 minutes.
Well, as far as like just as like office work is people who generate emails and documents via AI, and then people who get those emails and documents and then use
sort
AI.
them via AI?
Well, they get the emails and documents via AI, and they use AIs to say, summarize all this for me. I'm not reading that.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just like, what are we doing here?
Right. Which is, again, why I feel like we're going to spark a generation of user-created content, of people being like, what are we doing? We don't need this thing. For storytelling.
We're going to get a lot of
administrative work.
It's lazy content.
Yeah, but there's already a lot of lazy content. And you know what I do?
Yeah.
Bleh.
Well, I don't know if I'm not going to get into this.
You're fine.
But
also, fuck it. Hang on.
I'm not going to get into this. But I don't know if you heard of the whole Willy Wonka like chocolate event that happened in Europe somewhere. I think it was Ireland. Or
that's
Scotland.
This is not what I thought you were talking about.
There was
I think you're talking about them using AI content in Wonka.
No, there was a whole like literal event like at an event center that bombed because the dude that organized it
was bombed or went poorly.
Went poorly.
Okay. I was like, no.
Holy shit. But no, the dude that created it and organized it used AI images for the advertising, used AI to create the event description.
So nothing is real.
No, he used AI to create AI photos to create the backdrops that he then had printed, and the event sucked.
Yeah.
Like it was, I don't know if you guys remember DashCon, which was like the Tumblr event where
I thought you were going to say Fire.
No, where like the biggest thing of this whole DashCon event is that they had a ball pit. That was it.
Wait, is this the ball pit that lady broke her spine in?
No, different.
Okay.
This was like back like 20.
It's probably like TwitchCon.
12. No, but it was so bad. But all of it happened because this dude created like an actual business pitch using all AI.
Wait.
And sold it for like €40 a ticket.
And you're saying this was back then?
No, this was like 3 months ago.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
But what you're getting at though is like just because you can use all those tools and pull something off like this doesn't mean it's gonna be good.
Right. Now listen, if there are non-creators listening to this, that this is not a universal truth. Like AI will affect the labor market.
AI will dupe you. Like give it now between starting today already like the Pope and the puffer jacket.
Yeah, we're conflating terms though too that like AI generated content and visual AI generated content will dupe you, but the robots aren't coming for us.
No. Yeah.
But
who knows?
Yeah. You know,
I've seen Terminator.
What was that?
I've seen Terminator.
That's true. It's not far off. But I just mean AI generated content. Now, when you are online, it is going to be certain that you have to do, well, I'm saying it in a long, drawn-out way. It's harder to believe your eyes now than it ever has been. And in that way, AI is a problem. It is stealing desk jobs. It is stealing administrative business work that people were doing for income, and that affects the labor market. I don't think it's going to end movies and cinema, though.
I don't think so either. I will say
it's going to affect Hollywood, because Hollywood is going to cheap out and replace actors with AI in the future, because there's going to... and
especially like background actors.
Correct. That's what I mean.
Yep.
Like, there's going to be A-list, and that's pretty much it.
Yep.
And the background actors are just AI generated,
which creates problems because a lot of A-list actors today started as background actors.
Tell me about it, bro. That was when I moved to New York, it was background work. That's all I could get. And that was like the dream. Mm-hmm. I knew nothing about AI or anything like that, but it was like, oh, great. I got to meet directors by being in background things.
Yep.
That's it.
Well, I'll say this too. Today, what is it? March 5th.
Tuesday, election day. Did you vote? We're not going to talk about politics, but I warned John we might.
So today,
today,
March 5th, 2024, I saw a post on Facebook today that said Amazon picks up or funds show for a live action God of War TV show featuring Dwayne Johnson as Kratos.
I definitely don't believe that.
To which it had a photo-real picture of the most believable Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in Kratos makeup, to which I would almost say
most people would believe.
Yeah. In which I was like, man, is that true? Look it up quick, it's fake.
Yeah.
But assuming that was true, and assuming that was AI generated, that's a desk job already replaced right there. That's several.
Well, I will say
several jobs replaced.
So I listened to, and it's funny. I made a joke about it. I don't think we're going to end up getting into politics talk, but I am talking about things.
We'll cut it before we get to that.
Yeah. I watch a YouTube channel called Breaking Points, which is just there's one host on the right, one host on the left, and they just give you both perspectives. And that's the reason I watch it. Where was I going with this? Oh, they were talking about how like they don't fear it, but they acknowledge the incoming existence of AI in your everyday life. Like we're gonna see more of it every day. For thumbnails and stuff, they used to have one of their editors be like, okay, you crop out Joe Biden, put him in the backdrop of
and then I'll crop out someone going
like this.
Yeah.
You don't need that anymore. Because it's not even just crop Joe Biden. It's give me an image of Joe Biden in front of an American flag. Yes, of course you can pull one from the internet.
But it's not what you want. Just change.
It just makes it. Make his mouth open a little bit more.
I want his teeth to be more white.
Exactly. That it's gone. So that again, it is not without problem. AI is a problem.
Without getting into politics, I do fear for this year's election as far as misinformation in AI.
It's really funny. That's why I was I'm going to talk about...
We'll get into it some other time.
Well, we're going to get into it right now for a minute.
Okay.
That's it. Especially because I feel like it's important for me to say, once I say out loud, we should start phasing it out. Then I can acknowledge we should probably get close to the end of the podcast soon. So I'm acknowledging we should probably get close to that. And by saying that, lest we get into a rabbit hole about politics, that is what I wanted to talk about. Mm-hmm. Is not so much in the if you're not endorsing this claim, I am. Okay. I'm not putting you on the spot here. Both sides suck.
Yep.
Both sides are a problem.
Yep.
And if we're going with the lesser of two evils, I think there isn't one. I said it.
Okay.
That's fine.
I'll agree with that.
It's election day. A lot of people are upset. I understand. I'm not talking about the politics. I'm talking about the fact that you can't believe what you see anymore. Mm-hmm. And if the right says Joe Biden, if in 4 years the right says Joe Biden did this, or this leftist politician did this, and then on the flip side, the left says this person on the right did this, and you go, no, they didn't. You could type into your program.
Yeah, and you'll find proof of both, whether it's actually real.
You want to bet? Here's video of Donald Trump doing XYZ. Here's video of John Kelley doing XYZ.
Kick flipping over a child.
Because we've all put ourselves on the internet for 15 years. Our faces, our reactions, our opinions, our expressions, our thoughts, our dialect, the way we speak, I'm doing it right now. Long form content, my voice is fucked.
Same.
People can make me say anything. And that's a problem, especially for elections, which is why democracy is like a scary afterthought right now of like, I'm not really interested in participating in the system. I want somebody to be like, heads up, guys, we're fucked soon if we don't address this. Mm-hmm. And it's like, there's 2 old people who aren't going to do that. So it's like, what do we do about that?
Yep.
I don't know. Think that AI is a punk bitch. That's all I can do.
I agree. I will say, hearing about AI and seeing how fast it progressed, like since even this time last year, I thought it was going to be a worse problem than it currently is. But with that being said, I can almost pinpoint a date where it will become, in my mind, an actual, like, at least nationwide problem, and it is this year's election.
The election day?
Just months leading up to. Because what are you going to do when you have, like, hey, did you hear Joe Biden said this? And it's completely fabricated, but already in 2016, we had misinformation, and AI wasn't even a thing.
Yeah.
Like, I suspected that AI was going to be not further along, because it's way further along than I thought.
So that's a terms thing. I don't think we're talking about AI then. We're just talking about misinformation.
Yes, I'm talking about, I thought AI was going to be used by for far more than it currently is than I thought it was going to be already.
Now that,
to an extent.
That's 5 years though. To me, the current problem right now is AI.
Yep.
This is why I wrote aliens too. Because aliens were one of the notes. We're not going to talk about aliens, but adjacent to aliens. Oh shit, we're definitely talking about the thing on the back. Okay.
Do we have time?
Yes, because this will be the last clip. We have 20 minutes left.
I would like to introduce this topic.
Okay, we're not gonna say it yet.
Okay.
I'm just saying, relevant to that. There's 3 things. Robots.
Beats. Bears.
Stop it. Robots, aliens, and monsters.
And cryptids.
Those are, strong. And I've talked about aliens on the podcast, obviously. I don't necessarily need your opinion. But we're talking about the robots right now. The AI is phase 1. AI is a terrifying concept here. Robots are a terrifying concept here. The meshing of those worlds is coming soon. And that's weird to think about. That, like, are you familiar with the singularity? The moment that technology becomes conscious.
Yeah, you've seen the Animatrix, right?
Yeah. Oh, nice. The Animatrix. Check it out.
Check it out.
The moment that technology becomes conscious.
Don't check it out if you don't want to be in a bummer mood.
Because we're heading there. I don't know if we're heading for the war. Because I think they could just shut us off.
Shut us off?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
yeah.
Depending on how you...
Technology will survive the nuclear holocaust in a way that physical human bodies will
so
not.
You're not just like, all right, you're done. Like, you're talking like...
Yeah, they just implode us as a planet.
Okay. That's what I thought you meant, but I was like, I don't know.
No.
I mean, they have a switch, we don't.
Yeah,
but...
if the robots decide we're done here, it's over. We've lost. Whatever. I'm not concerned about that. It's more of the, like, if this incorrectly programmed AI that spews information is then put into robots, then the robots aren't the... If super intelligent robots showed up and decided we should stay, that's exciting to me. Because, like, cool, we'll have a more intelligent species than us. Who cares about us? But if dumb robots exist, that's a bigger problem to me.
Which is kind of what I was saying, where I thought, AI got so good so fast.
Very fast.
That I was like, give it a year. This is going to take over everything, which as of today hasn't happened as much as I thought it would have had yet. But
you still agree with 6 months?
I still agree with 6 months.
Yep.
And I still agree that the first wave of AI, especially AI generated misinformation, will hit the masses for this year's election.
Do you know what October surprises are?
No.
In relation to elections, October is usually when you dump the juicy goodness.
Okay.
So October on the Republican side was WikiLeaks. That was when they said the Clinton Foundation's been doing X, Y, and Z, and they've been blah, blah, blah. And October...
Email server.
Yep. And about her emails, yep. And on the Democratic side, October was when the grab 'em by the pussy tape came out.
Okay.
So it's like, if you have dirt, you dump it right before the election. That is when the AI stuff's going to hit. Look out in October and late September for the most unbelievable video of Joe Biden being inappropriate with a person, or Donald Trump like literally sitting down with Vladimir Putin saying like, yes, I'll do whatever you say. That shit's
Doing
coming.
like the rocket power, like woogity woogity woogity.
Joe Biden. Okay, I've never used AI, but please, if you do, send me a footage
Speaking
of
of
Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin going to woogity woogity woogity.
Speaking of another cartoon I watched,
Yes.
Rocket Power.
Okay, I must transition us into this.
I need to bring this up because you have brought this up in this podcast.
Yes, I have to pee again. I'm so sorry.
All right, get out of here.
Okay. I won't say it, but the last thing you wrote on the back of this piece of paper for our notes is, there's no way I could have predicted that you would write that.
I'm bringing this up because you brought it up once in your podcast.
Interesting. I'm trying to remember when I did that.
I don't know how or why or when, but you did it a disservice.
I did a disservice. Oh shit. Which I will say, just a quick aside. Thank you for listening and holding me accountable. I did a disservice.
So what you brought up was the Dogman.
Which is the only word that was written on the piece of paper. Dogman.
What you left out was it was the Northwest Michigan Dogman. It was the Wexford County Dogman.
It was our county?
Yes.
That I did not know.
It originated in Cadillac.
It did?
Yes.
That I did not know.
In middle school, we had a whole unit on the Dogman.
Okay, quick aside. There is local lore if you live in, we can say Michigan, but pretty much northern Michigan into Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
That there exists a creature named...
A cryptid, so I brought cryptid up. Right?
Yep, okay, I see. Exists a cryptid named the Dogman that once every 10 years on the 7th year... So
this year would be 2027.
Yep, 2027, 2037, shows up and just munches people.
It is describe it as a wolf almost, but it's a dog-like wolf that 7 feet tall, walks on its hind legs exclusively.
There is not exclusively.
Mostly.
Yeah, mostly. There is a song
that started on a radio station. I took the unit.
I probably won't, but maybe I'll play a little snippet of the song here.
A cool summer morning in early June is when the legend began. At a nameless logging camp in Wexford County where the Manistee River ran.
But if I did not, just look up the Dogman song. As a young boy, man, that scared the shit
It's
out of me.
your fuel, actually.
It's such a creepy, uneasy, shitty sounding song about the legend of the Dogman. And it's this dude with a very low voice, and he's just kind of talking like this, and none of the singing is melodic, but it goes to a tune. And when he's talking about that, he's talking about a creature that stood on its hind legs over 7 foot tall and looked in the window, and if you saw it, would start grinning at you.
Originally, it was found by a group of loggers in Wexford County because they looked inside of a hollow log that they cut down, and out emerged this massive wolf-like, dog-like creature.
And then the song goes, woo!
that ended up standing on its hind legs and just walked into the forest and was gone.
And so this song
Played.
First of all, constantly every Halloween, regardless if it was the 7th year or whatever.
Well, I'll note this really quick. The song originally played on the radio, and that's when people called in and were like, oh my God, you just described what I've been trying to explain to people my whole life.
You're giving me a lot of information I did not have.
so the song played, and then people called into the radio station and were like, you just described what I have been trying to tell people that I have witnessed my whole life.
This is giving me George vibes.
And so then they're like, whoa, stop the presses. Let's talk about this. So then they took everyone's stories, they tracked them down, and then they found out, like, wait, all of these sightings only happen on the 7th year, exclusively. Even when, like, the logging story was, like, 1917, something like that. So the reason I bring it up is because you were just, like, talking about just cryptids and whatnot, aliens, and just like, yeah, I think the Dogman. I'm like, no. You brought up the Cadillac, Michigan, Wexford County
I did not know
Dogman.
I do remember.
That's kind of like saying, like, oh, you know the Mothman?
Well, here's why.
I'm like, no, because it's from here.
Well, here's why. Because, well, first of all, maybe I might have known that it was from Wexford County and completely pushed it out of my brain. But when I moved to New York and I told someone, like, yeah, just like the Dogman, and they were like the what?
Yeah.
And I was like, hold on. You weren't haunted as a youth by the story of the Dogman? And they're like, I've never even heard, like, you mean like the Wolfman? Like, no. It's not.
No.
It's not the same.
Like a werewolf?
No, not the same thing. And then, so I've just noticed, I've known it as a Michigan thing. So I was like, oh, I guess it's just.
Well, even more than that, I've talked to people in Grand Rapids, and I'm like, hey, the Dogman. They're like,
No.
I know what you're talking about. I'm like, it is just
Same from Detroit. Well, that's why I was like, Northern Michigan. It was a big thing. It was on a particular radio station, probably 105.9, 107.9.
The Bear.
The Bear. It probably, wait.
107.1, The Bear.
Yep, but it was also 96.7. Is that right? Yeah, I think yeah. It's such local bullshit.
So anyways, the Frosty Cup burnt down.
But yeah, the legend of the Dogman was haunting because it wasn't just like... So when it comes to these cryptids, Bigfoot? Do I believe in a Bigfoot? Probably not.
Probably not.
Same thing with like Yeti and the Loch Ness Monster. But do I believe in like big feet? You know what I mean? Like, is there one creature, the Dogman? Probably not. Is there one creature, the Loch Ness Monster? Probably not. But there might be species of shit
That we just don't know about.
that there's just a few that we don't know about.
I would say it would be very naive to say for a fact that there is not.
That's why I was willing to tie that into aliens. Because it's like the same way with the Dogman. It was like, yeah, clearly nobody... Does the Dogman exist? A creature that only comes out once every 10 years on the 7th year, and he just smiles and eats people? Probably not.
Which I don't even know if it eats people. It's just...
There is, yeah. Right? Isn't there in the story? I've always anticipated... It's funny, because I just...
Listen to the song. You'll know.
If you know those like T-Rex costumes where people sometimes just like eat the people and then they just disappear, that's what I picture the Dogman doing. He's like a big tall thing that just swallows you whole.
I will say when I was younger and we were driving, like just driving through I say the forest, just like the woods, even just on like a back country road. It's paved, like literally a paved road. I was like, holy shit. Like we could turn a corner and just...
That was
in
the
headlights.
scariest. Well, and you said that he walked exclusively on his back legs. That's why I remember, like, I've seen large, probably coyotes. I believe that I've seen wolves from time to time. Not as common in northern Michigan, but there's definitely some. It's one thing to see, like, holy shit, that is a big wolf. Because the difference between the size of your local Saint Bernard
Yeah.
and a wolf.
Or even
It's-
just like a husky and a wolf. It's like
Well, like the biggest. I just mean the biggest
dog is still
domesticated dog is small in comparison to a wolf. But then to see that really big wolf stand on its back legs, because that was part of the song. It was like he was walking around and then he stood up on his back legs, and it's that motion that I tie to the Dogman. It's not just like he's a big thing walking around. It's like, whoa, that thing's huge. Oh my God, is it standing up?
Yep.
Like, that's scary to me. Shit, man.
So the reason I wrote it down, bring it up, is like not only
Because I was wrong.
you brought it up, but you didn't bring it up the fact that like this is a hometown.
Was I wrong, or did I exclude information?
I think you were just like, yeah, I'm just like the Dogman, and you just kind of left it at that. And I was
Yeah.
like, no, this is the
Interesting.
Cadillac, Wexford County, Northern Michigan Dogman.
If I can allow it, the outro music will be the Dogman song, I think.
I doubt that's copyrighted.
Probably not, but does the guy, I wonder if the guy's still alive. If he's alive. You have my word. I'm saying this out loud. If the man who wrote the Dogman song is alive, I'm going to try to get him on the podcast.
Oh my God.
and have him talk about the writing and where the inspiration came from. Did you hear about the Dogman first? Did you write the song? Because what feared me about the Dogman was the Dogman song.
The song was written off tales that people had told.
Right, so I want to know, like, what had he heard
Mm-hmm.
before he wrote the song? And what has that done for his bank account in Northern Michigan? Because, wow, the residuals on that must be huge.
I will say an injustice is that a Michigan Chillers book
That's wild!
has not been written about the Dogman.
This is the last point.
Then we've already said the last point.
The artist, there's an author named Jonathan Rand, right?
Similar vibe to R.L. Stein's Goosebumps.
Goosebumps. Jonathan Rand is an author from Michigan who wrote a series called American Chillers, which was a youth,
Like a thriller horror.
but like 7th grade reading level,
Yeah.
about every state in America. And then he did a series called Michigan Chillers about some of the
Counties.
big counties in Michigan. So with such titles as Poltergeists of Petoskey, Yetis of Ypsilanti.
Probably something of Mackinac Island. Maybe, who knows?
Yes.
Something
I can't
like
remember what it was. Spiders of Saginaw. Yeah, that kind of thing.
And I'll say this, there is no Cadillac book or Lake City book.
That is correct.
And there is no Dogman version of that Michigan show.
Because, and this is my theory, he had to write fiction. That's all I'm going to say, dog.
I think we sign out with that. That's it.
And with that, I am going to have a proper intro or proper outro. All I want to do, it doesn't have to be a pitch, a plug, or anything like that. At whatever length, you've been making some paintball stuff, some stock stuff. Can we plug it? Do you think you can handle the demand?
Sure. No, sure. So
What is it?
Yeah, so I make, about a year and a half ago, I got into 3D printing, mostly because I've always had the childlike mind of, if I imagine something, I want to be able to 3D model it, and then how cool it'd be if you bring it into existence.
Yep, which now you can do.
So with a 3D printer, I've been printing paintball specific accessories with full intention on expanding further than that. But right now it's paintball accessories. So if you are oddly enough listening to this and into paintball, JK Design Studios, both on Instagram and on Etsy.
Do you have a .com?
No.
So JK Design Studios on Etsy to
Or
purchase
Instagram.
the stuff.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
sell on Instagram?
No, but the Etsy's in the link or in the bio.
So the Instagram will route you there.
Yeah.
So if you want to make your purchases,
That's it. For now.
for now, we'll talk about that off camera because I want to know more about that. Hey, fucking love you, buddy. Thank you for doing this. First of all, I know you listened to the last episode, but there is intention to have more guest-forward episodes and less seriously taken episodes. This doesn't have to be a place to
Got that.
This doesn't have to be a place to be sad or a bummer or just talk about art or the process of creating art. This can be a podcast where people just tune in to check out.
If you guys are ready for your Dogman exclusive podcast, join the A.D.H.Deep-Dive.
You know it. Man, I would like to have you as a co-host for that Jonathan Rand episode. Okay. Do you know where you want to get food? Or should we talk about that off camera?
Talk about it off camera.
All right. Love you. Love you.
Love you.
Till next time and all that. Peace.